Hope you're all well. Lovely to see you. I thought I'd wait till last minute just so Natalie would finish hers, and we'll get going in a minute. Hey Tish, hi Debs, Lynn. She's still going strong. Okay, we'll take a slow start. I don't want to interrupt anyone. Let's see. I'll get the cap. Going good. Hey Dora, Jennifer, Sheila, John, North Carolina, Rebecca. Lovely to see you. Busy evening here. Oh my goodness. Hey Liz, Davis, Peter, DS. Some great restaurants behind. And the ubiquitous telephone box, which of course we always see in London. Some of them aren't being used, some of them are used as libraries. This one is actually working, so you can actually make a phone call from it on the Brompton Road. Let's turn you around. I'm Gerard, nice to see you. We're on the Brompton Road. It's still busy. Eve has said, my 5th Gerard tour. Yay! Well, you're all so welcome. What we're going to hear tonight, I'm going to get my mic working as close to my mouth as possible. We're going to hear a lot of traffic. Tisha said that she loves a Blue Hour tour. Yeah, me too. I enjoy it a lot. We got 57 people watching at the moment. And I think that will pick up once Natalie is done. We're in Knightsbridge at the moment. We're on the Brompton Road. The Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea. So if we continued on in that direction where all that traffic's going, and I'll be honest with you, most of the traffic going in that direction is either coaches or cabs or delivery drivers. We'd end up in Fulham, then Putney, Chiswick, Hampton Court and Twickenham, and then further off to the west of England. If we went along this road, Montpellier Street, we would eventually end up at the Albert Hall if we went along the road and then took a left at the end. And if you join me on the Albert Hall tours, they're great fun. But Hyde Park is there in the distance, and that's where I was sat earlier, just preparing. But as Tish said, a Blue Hour tour. The direction we're going to take is east, towards the bottom end of Hyde Park, and we're going to take a right then towards the Thames. We're going to walk down Sloane Street towards Sloane Square. Now just up there, if you took a left, you would be in Brompton, and Brompton is where broom grows. Broom is a shrub. The area Brompton was first mentioned in 1294. It's like a gorse, Gorse, bright yellow flowers, long whip-like stems, they call them. And it's where we get the word broom. It's the old Dutch word, braam, or bramble. We get broom from that. If you continued on in that direction, you'd find Brompton Cemetery. And I don't want to go there because I know that Marla, one of the new London guides, is doing a Brompton Cemetery tour. I know that Natalie does them, but if you continued along Brompton Road, you'd find the cemetery from 1840. Originally a public park and a burial space, so they did both at the same time. In Victorian London, or let's say the mid-1800s, it was a time of enormous growth in population and in manufacture. We had something called the Industrial Revolution. More folks were moving in to work in factories, power stations. and the cemetery, which is just up Brompton Road to the right. If we continued on in that direction as well, we would eventually meet the Natural History Museum, where I know that one of the new London guides, Michael, and I know that Nick, one of the other new guides, do Natural History Museum tours. And they're both great guides. But Brompton Cemetery, further up there and to the right, and I won't step on Marla's feet, has many, shall we say, residents. John Snow, who isolated and discovered the cause of cholera. Emmeline Pankhurst, suffragist or suffragette. Samuel Cunard, if anyone's ever got a Cunard ship or cruise ship, he was the pioneer of that. Sotheby, Samuel Lee Sotheby, Brian Glover, and Beatrix Potter lived very close to here. So in the cemetery, she often wandered, and she found names like Nutkins, McGregor, Brooke, Todd, and somebody called Peter Rabbet. But we are here, first of all, to see this iconic building. Lit up at night. They light at 9, so I spoke in that direction so that we could see this. A sight to behold. Harrods, first and foremost, a department store, but also a historic landmark. 5 acres, 2 hectares, 1 million square feet of shopping space, 100,000 square meters. Probably gets close to 100,000 shoppers a day. And it has a motto. It's Omnia Omnibus Ubique. All things for all people everywhere. Essentially, you should be able to buy whatever you want here, whenever you want. Including, in the old days, exotic animals. People could order alligators, tigers, elephants. The pet shop's now closed. You can't buy an elephant here anymore. They have pet supplies, though. It's now owned by a company called the Qatar Investment Authority, but it was founded in 1849 by a man called Charles Henry Harrod, interestingly enough. Not every store has a Latin motto, definitely. If you can afford to shop there, Hillary has said. An iconic view. Now, Charles Harrod had a shop not far from Southwark on Borough High Street, quite close to the Globe, London Bridge area, where I often do my Shakespeare's Footsteps tours. And he was a clever guy. He found out about the Great Exhibition. So if we walked along this road and we took a left, we'd be in Hyde Park, just on the end of Hyde Park, near Kensington Gardens. And he found out about the Great Exhibition, which happened in 1851, and they built a palace, a big crystal palace there. And he bought a tiny piece of land, just here. In 1883, it burnt to the ground. But the great thing about Charles Harrod was that he fulfilled his promises to the customers. And he honoured all of their Christmas deliveries. So the reputation of Harrods grew and grew. Diana said that she bought some pencils at Harrods. It's a similar kind of thing that I do there. Unless it's at Christmas, I might buy mince pies from either here or Fortnum and Mason. Did you take out a mortgage? Susan has said, just to buy the pencils. The food court is probably the most amazing thing about Harrods. You can wander around here and not buy anything. For a while, you spent £1 at the toilet. They had the poshest toilets in London. Jan has said that she buys normally a Christmas decoration here, not too expensive. Gillian has asked, did Harrods open 1851? It opened in 1849, so they knew there would be a great exhibition. So Charles Henry Harrod was very clever and he got in first. £1 to go to the toilet, to the posh toilets. You can go to a regular toilet as well. But the thing was, Harrod himself, well, he got a good reputation. He made a massive profit and he built a new, much bigger store. And what he did was extend credit to the more illustrious customers. People like Oscar Wilde, who was getting very well known in the late 1880s, Charlie Chaplin, Noel Coward, Sigmund Freud, and of course many of the royal family. What constitutes a posh toilet? It's such a good question. Well, I don't know what it's like, Tish, in the States, but a posh toilet here, they normally have somebody, a toilet attendant, with about 500 different aftershaves and lotions. That's basically it. And you normally say to them, oh, I'll get you, I need to go again, I'll get you on the way out. We mentioned a teddy bear there. Hugh was asked if they still close the store for royals to shop. Well, there's a bit of a story behind Harrods to do with the Fayed family and Muhammad Al Fayed in particular, who fell out with the royal family. We'll get to that in a moment. They shop more at Fortnum and Mason's than here. Angela has said that her parents bought a dog in Harrods many years ago. Well, that is something. You definitely know then the pet store did exist. Didn't buy an elephant then. For anyone just joining, we're on the Brompton Road. We're outside Harrods, which has just closed for the evening. In the 1880s, about 1888 or so, Charles Harrod sold his shares, and it changed from Harrod & Co. to simply what we know today, Harrods. It's not the same now. I know what you mean. It still looks amazing. It's kind of not the same. There are still people, when I go in here, that you think that they're doing their weekly shop or their daily shop. People that live in the local area. It's quite an affluent area, Knightsbridge. In 1898, look at this guy here, the rickshaw driver. 1898, the first moving staircase in England, an escalator, was put here. Nervous users were offered brandy at the top to settle their nerves. Some became very faint or pretended to. I know what I would do. I'd pretend to get faint just to get the free brandy. In the 1950s, it was taken over by the House of Fraser Group, and then in 1985, bought by the Fayed brothers. Princess Diana lived not far from here, Alison. And the Fayed brothers, Muhammad Al Fayed in particular, was the main man in charge. His son Dodi became very close to Princess Diana, and of course they were killed in the car crash in Paris, and Muhammad Al Fayed did not forget. He always blamed the royal family. The Fayeds fell out majorly with royalty. He was quite vocal about it, Mohammed. So royalty went a bit further along towards Fortnum and Mason in Piccadilly, but Harrods still thrives. it's still busy. And when the lights went on at 9 o'clock, the amount of people that were taking photos here, there were about 100 of them. The architect is a man called Charles William Stevens, also worked on the Park Lane Hotel. Harvey Nichols, which is a bit further up. Claridge's. Brompton Road is always busy. If it's not cabs, it's very, very expensive, lavish cars. Somebody mentioned on the chat there earlier that A.A. Milne bought a teddy bear here. He bought his son an 18-inch Alpha Farrell. And he called it Edward, and then after a while he decided to change the name to Winnie. And his son was named Christopher Robin. I like what Robin has said there. Correct. In Harrods this June, not the same as it was many years ago. A little disappointed. Very interesting. I've known so many people. I've been an actor, as some of you know, 25 years. A lot of my acting pals have worked at Harrods in the perfume counters and the makeup counters. And I have an electrician friend that works in the electrics department here. And he says that they used to check the bulbs daily, but now they check them weekly. There are 12,000 bulbs that light up Harrods. But with cutbacks, and maybe just the fact that they don't want to spend as much. It used to be that they would change about 50 bulbs a day, but now weekly they change about 300. Rickshaws in this area are popular, simply because, Eve, it's such a busy road, and you might find it's easier to go on a rickshaw than to try and drive here. Let's wander on. One of the most popular things about London at the moment is the American sweet stores, and that one will open till midnight tonight. The Kingdom of Sweets. It's a chain now, and they have sweets from all over the world, but mainly American things, the Twinkies, the peanut butter M&Ms. If you've been on a tour with me before, you'll know how much I like those. And they have a late license. Let's try and get up to Harvey Nichols and Sloane Street. The buildings in front of us, you've got the Mandarin Oriental Hotel. If we continued on in that direction, you will eventually reach Hyde Park and Green Park. So many American sweets are lousy, but I suppose the thing is, MB, that because we don't have them here, they end up becoming a little bit more popular. Oh, I'm just scrolling through the chat here. Yeah, electric prices are going crazy. It really is a money area of London. In the area we're going to walk down Sloane Street even more so. It's on a par with Bond Street, high-end fashion. Some of the most famous fashion brands in the world have stores here. So it's not the kind of area that I would ever live, and not the kind of area that I would hang out as much as I would, say, somewhere in the West End, be okay, but this is a little bit more expensive here. Yeah, you said that Twinkies, it's interesting that they're considered a specialty food. Well, there are different laws with sugar content, and that's why you could never get peanut butter M&Ms and Twinkies in a regular store in London. Even in the M&M store in the middle of Leicester Square, you cannot get peanut butter M&Ms. And in your regular department store, they might have Lucky Charms, they might have certain things, but EU regulations have stated sugar contents. Well, they designate everything. Now, I suppose the UK have left the EU. That might all change. Yeah, sugar content. So that's a Mandarin Oriental. Marco Pierre White used to have a restaurant there. As Tish was saying, a blue light tour is lovely. It's a lot darker here than what it seems on the screen. You've got Harvey Nichols just on the right, and we're going to cut down Sloane Street all the way down to Sloane Square. So as I said, this kind of area, it's on a par with Bond Street for high-end fashion. Everywhere we'll pass here is a famous name in high-end fashion. There's a Prada, there's an Armani, there's a Balenciaga, but the traffic is horrific. Always, you would never drive down here if you had any sense. You drive along the river, which is in front of us at the end. You'll eventually reach the River Thames at Chelsea Bridge. You went to the end of the road and took a left, you'd be at Victoria. This is where the term Sloane Ranger came from. So Sloane Street. It started in the 80s, but the area is it's not that imaginative in naming streets and buildings. There was a man called Hans Sloane, who was a doctor, and he was, well, he ended up being quite influential. He had 71,000 items in his private collection. So they were artifacts from all over the world, plant specimens, books, and so on. And he decided to leave them to the nation. A botanist, a doctor, Hans Sloane. So there's a Hans Street, there's a Hans Crescent, there's a Sloane Street, a Sloane Square, a Sloane Crescent. Hans Sloane lived from 1660 to just the early 1700s, but he had a plot of land here. And because of the collection that he had, that he left to the British Museum, British Library, Natural History Museum, they named a lot of the roads and the buildings after him. So you've got Sloane Street, Sloane Avenue, Sloane School even. And in the 1980s, when the word yuppie was coined, we had this in England, the young urban professional or young upwardly mobile professional. The people that lived in this area, a certain group of people were known as Sloane Rangers. And Albert Bridge is just a bit further up. And Albert Bridge decided about 30 years ago to put a width restriction on the bridge. And a lot of the people that lived in this area drove very wide Range Rovers. They called them Chelsea tractors. And They were quite annoyed because they couldn't go over Albert Bridge. Albert Bridge was known as the Trembling Lady because it couldn't hold too much weight. The Sloane family also given titles. Well, they were not in this area. It was Sloane and Cadogan and Grosvenor were the people just around here. So three families, really. The main estates were the Cadogan estate and the Grosvenor estate. Let's just see what we can see here. There's Roberto Cavalli. Very stylish people. It's not my kind of gear. And nothing has a price on it. Can you hear this car? Wow. There's a Maserati that just went past. So this kind of stuff I wouldn't wear. It's the kind of stuff you see in, well, certain TV shows. Like Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul. Yeah, if there's no price, if you can't see the price, if you have to ask the price, you can't afford it. And there's Ferraris, Maseratis. These people have some money. I'll be honest with you, if my car was making that noise, and I've got a Dacia Sandero Stepway, quite a simple little car, if it was making that kind of noise, I'd worry. And of course you've got Dior. Now, a lot of people who had money used to live around the Strand area. In the middle of the West End, Theatreland, really. There was a Burley House, a Northumberland House. Now, talking of Hans Street and Sloane Street, we have a Hans Crescent up here. But when the Duke of Northumberland sold his land in the late 1600s, he was fed up with Covent Garden Market, which had just opened. In the 1660s, it became Theatreland, and it became a bit of an area of crime around Covent Garden. The Duke of Northumberland, he did the opposite of Hans Sloane. Hans Sloane passed away and they named areas after him. The Duke of Northumberland said, I want a Duke Alley, a Northumberland Street, and even had an Of Alley. So the word of became part of a street. So this area, the west, further west, Mayfair, Belgravia, Piccadilly, this became the area for aristocracy. Is it more pricey, Brenda has asked, than the Mayfair area? I don't think so. A lot of the people that hang out here have small flats or apartments, or they're staying in hotels. It's very rare in this chunk of London that you find big houses. Mayfair, you find bigger houses. Further west, in Chiswick, bigger houses. I was earlier researching for a Dulwich tour. Dulwich is one of the most affluent areas of London, but there are regular folks like you and I that live there as well. But they're big houses. But here, mainly apartments and hotels. Now, this is my favourite store, and I come here on a regular basis. I think it's called Prada. Prada? Prada. This is what I just bought this last week. I thought it would be quite nice to have on my next tour. Okay. Now, there are 2 stores in the UK that are named PR. Yeah, look out for it. Look out for it. Please, Linda. You've got Prada, and you've got Primark. So, guess which one I shop at? Looks like a prison uniform. Yeah. And again, what do you think? No price. I can't tell you how much these things cost. I watched Michael the other day, New London Guide in Borough Market, and he was explaining the prices of the food in Borough Market, which was great. I haven't seen one price of anything as I've walked down this road. I can't afford it. Yeah, it looks like something out of a hospital, something out of maybe the, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Famous residents in this area. Lily Langtry. Lily Langtry was born in 1853, was an actress, but she was also a socialite. And in Victorian times, the idea of being a performer and being friends of royalty, that was not the done thing. She also then became a theatre producer. William Wilberforce lived just up there along that road on Cadogan Place. And if you don't believe me, I will post an image of where these people lived. So William Wilberforce, interestingly, lived just up there, but there was another very famous person called Dora Jordan who lived there. Dora Jordan was quite a well-known actress. Here's Wilberforce here. This is his place. He was the slavery reformer. Dora Jordan, well, she had an affair with the Duke of Clarence, who later became King William IV. She had 13 children, 3 by, well, not him, and then 11, 12 by him as well. You wouldn't believe how dark it is where I'm walking. This is the Danish and the Icelandic embassy. Now, the Danes and the Icelandics are so cool that they end up sharing an embassy. They're that chilled out. Yeah, the house where Judy Garland died is in the area as well, a little bit further from where we are. I wish I could take us there. Oscar Wilde also famously arrested at the Cadogan Hotel, just further up. It's a shame it's not lit. It's actually darker in reality. But this is Arne Jacobsen's Danish and Icelandic embassy. Now, if you don't know the name of this designer, Arne Jacobsen invented a chair called the egg chair, which we would all know. I'm going to post the image now. We all know it. This is that chair. Same guy was the designer and the architect of this embassy. It's lovely that the Danes and the Icelandics share the embassy. And the gardens on the left are a private garden for the residents of Cadogan Place. So they have their own private keys. Okay, let's cross over. Sloane Square tube station, which we passed a bit earlier on, it's kind of a bit famous in my life and my memory. When I first became an actor 25 years ago, a lot of the first jobs that I did work in IT before I became an actor. I had a proper career going on there. And then I thought, you know what, I want to be unemployed for a living. So I decided to train at a drama school, theatre school. And then I started to do what they called promo jobs. So I signed up with all these agencies and I did leafleting. And the amount of bins, and I don't want to, I'm not proud of it, but they would give you a load of leaflets at the beginning of a day. And you'd think, I can't spend 6 hours giving out these leaflets. And I had a partner at the time, and she would drive along to wherever I was and take the leaflets. Take quite a few of them, boxes of them, in fact. And it would make because it was what they call job and finish. So when you took the leaflets, the leaflets were all gone. It looked like you had done your job properly. Diana said I was wise to go for a life that makes you happy. Yeah, I wanted to be a theatre actor. I've done quite a few good theatre jobs around the country, where we're going to end at the Royal Court. Strangely, I had an audition there today, and weirdly on the same day that I'm doing a tour where I end up at the Royal Court with a man called Sam Mendes, Oscar-winning theatre and film director. He wasn't there. I went for the first audition, and it was with the resident, the assistant director, and then I came in, they said, you'll be meeting Sam Mendes, and I was quite nervous today. I didn't meet him. He was on a video screen in New York. Former husband of Kate Winslet, Alison. He's doing a play at the National Theatre, so I had a little meeting for that. I always say, I don't say audition. Some of you may know this. Because over the years, when I've said audition, by the way, this is the Cadogan Hotel. This is where Lily Langtry lived, on this site, and where Oscar Wilde was arrested for crimes at the time which were considered wrong. Eve has asked, what did I audition for? A play at the National Theatre, which is coming on soon, but it was a strange one. So I didn't have to read anything from the script. It was just like a basic meeting, so it may be for something else. But I used to say audition, and I got very nervous. When I said audition, I thought, okay, I'm showing them something. I've got to be good. And then I decided to change it to meeting. And then it felt like you were a bit more on a par with each other. So the word meeting I always use now. Director of American Beauty and Revolutionary Road. I mean, these are amazing films. Revolutionary Road's one of the greatest films ever made. This is Sir Herbert Tree. He was an actor. He was a manager. He ran Her Majesty's Theatre, where Phantom of the Opera, a little known, very low-key kitchen sink drama, is on in the West End. He also started RADA, Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. 1916, he made a short film based on a Shakespeare play called Macbeth. And Herbert Tree is one of those people responsible for the myth of the curse of Macbeth. Now, they always say to actors, and they say actors are superstitious people anyway, but they always say, never say Macbeth. If you're not in the play, and you haven't played the part, Patrick Stewart said it many years later, if you haven't played the part of Macbeth, don't say the word in a theatre. It's supposed to be cursed. Bad things happen during a production of Macbeth. More than any other production, apparently. But the thing is, Macbeth is Shakespeare's most popularly performed play. It's an easy play to put on. In rep theatre in the 1950s, if a show wasn't doing well, they would often pull the show and put on a Macbeth very quickly. So there were always more productions of Macbeth going on than any other show. Any other play, it took a bit more. Hamlet, more characters. Titus Andronicus, more characters, more blood, more guts. and more line learning. Macbeth is short, snappy, and most people know the story anyway. So it's always going to sell out. So the idea of Macbeth being a cursed play, I don't know. Actors are superstitious people. Herbert got a plaque instead of a street named after him. He should have got a street named after him. He was the illegitimate father of Carol Reed. Carol Reed, director of The Third Man, director of the fantastic musical Oliver! Herbert Tree, or Herbert Beerbohm Tree, Beerbohm, was the grandfather of one of the greatest actors who's ever lived, Oliver Reed. But in a way, he was responsible for this curse. He performed in a Macbeth, and he decided to tell one of his friends, who was a critic, that the play was cursed and bad things were happening. Cast members were dying, cast members were leaving the production, and the critic just lapped it all up and put it in print. Can anyone hear a bit of a scream in the distance? Foxes. I said grandfather, I meant uncle, so I'm so sorry. The elephants escaped from Harrods, Tish. That's exactly what's happened. At Harrods, by the way, they used to have a king cobra, which was a bodyguard, basically a security guard, that would guard an encrusted jewel necklace. And when I came past Bulgari earlier on, when it was very bright, I saw 3 enormous security guards. And they were more terrifying, I think, than any king cobra. They looked like maybe supporting actors in the cast of a Mission Impossible film. Okay, we're coming up to Sloane Square. So we've had these famous people that have lived in the area, and we're still Cadogan, Grosvenor, Hans, Sloane. They have got no imagination. Thank you, Lorraine. Cadogan Gate. Over there, Cadogan Place. My goodness. One day these people might change the names. You can't have a Hans Street, a Hans Place, a Hans Crescent. Another actress associated with the area is Nell Gwyn. So when we get into the Sloane Square area, we're approaching, on the right-hand side, the King's Road. And the King's Road was commissioned or built for Charles II after the restoration of the monarchy in 1660. So we had these years of Puritan rule. 1642, we had all the trouble. Charles I was arrested. In a way, it was just a debate in the beginning. They said to King Charles I, we should have more. We should make more rules. We should be the lawgivers. You know, you want us to take your laws, but we're the ones that are writing down all the jurisdictions. And he said, no, I'm the king. God and my right is my title. You do what I say. And the Puritans said, no, we can't have this. So eventually it ended up in a civil war, and Charles I was beheaded. And Charles II went off to France in exile. And the French and the Dutch looked after him. And after about 18 years, he came back and amassed an army and overthrew the Puritans, was restored to the monarchy. For about 17 years in this country, theatre, singing, dancing, sport, gambling, brothels, all forbidden. Basically, all my hobbies gone. And then Charles II decided, as the merry monarch, to reopen all these establishments and cheer up the public. Nell Gwyn ended up becoming one of the first actresses. She was an orange seller outside Drury Lane Theatre, the first two theatres that opened. Theatre royals. And royalty didn't go to the theatre in Shakespeare's time. And before Charles II, they were just called places like the Globe, the Rose, the Hope, the Swan, the Curtain, the Fortune. And then they started to be theatre royals. The Theatre Royal Lincoln's Inn, the Theatre Royal Covent Garden. And Nell Gwyn was noticed by a manager, Charles Hart, selling oranges outside a theatre, and he said to her, "You should be on stage." Now, I don't want to be bitter, but I trained as an actor, and I've been doing it 25 years. Nobody saw me leafleting in this area and said, "You should be on stage." Naomi Campbell was spotted in Covent Garden just shopping, and somebody said, "You should be a model." And that's fair enough. But nobody said, "Jared, you should be an actor because I like the way that you load those boxes of leaflets into your girlfriend's car. I like your style." But she became an actress. Samuel Pepys called her Pretty Witty Nell. Charles II fell in love with her. There was a tunnel from Drury Lane down to the Strand so he could visit her at the intermissions. Very long intermissions in those days. This is Holy Trinity Church, by the way. Wow, okay. Can we appreciate this? I paid about 100. It doesn't look like there should be 100. It's about 95. I need to get my money back. But these guys are... Yeah, it's the road company, the touring company of Starlight Express. Oh, that's nice. Linda has said I should be a comedian because I'm making you laugh quite a lot. Well, that's nice. Before I became an actor, I tried out as a comedian. Didn't go too well. I preferred the depressing stuff. This is Holy Trinity Church, by the way. It's a flash mob indeed of skaters. This is the benefit, by the way, of Bluetooth, very high wattage, little speakers that you can have. People don't need to play them out of their phones. We've all been on trains where we've heard tinny music out of a phone, and you think, just play it properly. And when I was in New York, my partner Catherine 3 years ago, and they were way ahead of the times, and they had these Bluetooth boxes, and it was like every single carriage you were at Studio 54. I'm going to try and attempt what is commonly known as an Adam shot of Holy Trinity Church. Oh yeah. Now that is good. The Holy Trinity Church is quite well known in the area. Of course, it became a bohemian area when Oscar Wilde lived around here. He used to hang out around here, and a lot of those fellas used to hang out in this area. I tried this Adam shot or vertical shot the other day, and the cabling from my microphone, it went everywhere. Sorry. Okay, it's all gone horrifically wrong. Ellie G has asked, are you near Cadogan Hall? We are. Let me just, how can we see it from here? Cadogan Hall, little music venue down a side alleyway here. My girlfriend, Catherine, 3 years ago, We went to see Jeff Goldblum. If you don't know Jeff Goldblum's other work, apart from an actor and an amazing raconteur, he's a wonderful jazz pianist. We went to see him play. And Catherine is obsessed by Jeff Goldblum. And he said, does anyone want to go on stage and talk to me and answer some questions? And she was trying to push me. And I said, no. And I said, go. And I'll be honest, she had had a couple of glasses of wine and she did it. And I videoed it. What he was trying to do was give English versions of famous movie lines. And he said to her, read out this line. And the line was, actually, my darling, I'm not that interested. And he asked the crowd what it was. And it was, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. He's wonderful. Yeah, Goldblum's the best. Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone. Good on her. I was very proud. I'm very proud that I could get my phone working to film that. She's very embarrassed. He said, what's your name? She said, Catherine. He said, you sound very posh. And she said, I'm not. She's not. You'll meet her one day. So we're in Sloane Square. By the way, this is Peter Jones. This is a listed building. A curtain glass frontage. Doesn't look that interesting. Peter Jones was the son of a Welsh hat manufacturer. He came to London in the 1870s and he built a small store just here. Then it was bought by the John Lewis chain. LEG has said Peter Jones from Dragon's Den. I don't know if anyone over the rest of the world has a Dragon's Den where you have rich entrepreneurs and regular folks just pitch their ideas. Dragon's Den is wonderful. Yeah, it's brilliant. Shark Tank. It's called Shark Tank in America. Dragon's Den, but there's a guy called Peter Jones. It's not the same guy. But John Lewis bought it in the 1930s. And this is quite a rare example, apparently, of a glass curtain wall. So it's a modernist frontage, which is protected. Sloane Square is quiet now. There were bars open here earlier. I would like us to see the fountain, which is called the Venus Fountain. There were so many people drinking here earlier, and I was worried that we couldn't get to it. Yeah, I think I need to watch Shark Tank. So this is the Venus Fountain here. Designed by a man named Gilbert Ledward. The idea was the road behind us, the King's Road, that was built for Charles II. And at the end of the King's Road, in a place called Sands End, Nell Gwyn, who was an actress, an orange seller. Again, I don't want to get bitter, but she had an affair with King Charles for about 16 years. And she had 2 children with him, and his last words were, let not poor Nellie starve. She lived in a place called Sands End, the end of the King's Road. And this Venus Fountain is supposed to commemorate the 2 of them. Not because of the Venus, but because down here, you've got Charles on the left. That's Charles. No water, Diana said, because it's dry weather. That's exactly it. They are talking about a hose pipe ban. Do you guys get that all over the world? Hose pipe bans? Does that happen? I know Boston is happening like crazy at the moment, the heat. Yeah, the hose pipe ban. I was a bit clever. Bit of a fop, he looks like. Yeah, the Merry Monarch. But I suppose if it wasn't for Charles II, we wouldn't have the theatres reopened. And this is Nell Gwyn. Yeah, now, Guys, I'm going to give you a little tip here. You've been giving me tips, both verbally and financially. I went out last week because I was worried about a hosepipe ban, and I went to my local DIY store and I bought probably about 20 hosepipes. I'm all right. I'm sorted. I bought loads of them. Thanks very much. I thank you all. That's good. I'm good. Okay, that's good. I bought so many hosepipes. Thank you very much. You are... Well, I know the level of the humour that I've got now. That's all I need to know. We're approaching the Royal Court Theatre. Royal Court, where I auditioned earlier on today, probably failed miserably, but that's okay. I'm happy to be here. Doesn't matter. If I got a job, I continue on. Ronnie Lynn has said, I'm priceless, I'm so much fun. I'm going to get that on a t-shirt. Now, the Royal Court, it opened in 1888. You can see all the trees around. Obviously, in the spring, these trees were thriving. Not so much now. Yeah, the hosepipe ban actually means that you're not allowed to use hosepipes to water, not that you're banned from buying them. So 1888, it was known as the Chelsea Theatre. Oh, wouldn't it be great to see Paul Endicott? He might be hanging around. He might be in a bar somewhere here. Paul's one of my favourites. A few of W.S. Gilbert's early plays were staged here. George Bernard Shaw. Used as a cinema in the 1930s and early 1940s, as so many of the theatres in the West End were. Man who bought some playtext from the French bookshop. Yeah. Ellie G loved the Royal Court. Did I see Jerusalem there, Ellie? No, I saw it at the Apollo. I've seen it 3 times now. If any of you come to London, and I know a few of you are planning, a couple of you might be here already, Jerusalem starring Sir Mark Rylance. It's... I don't want to go crazy about it, but Mark Rylance, that performance in Jerusalem is probably the best acting performance I've ever seen, along with Nathan Lane in The Producers, those two, and Jonathan Pryce in The Goat in the early 2000s, at the Apollo again, but it originally started here. Now, if they don't have a revival here at the Royal Court, it is a new play. And there hasn't been a new play on here for 5 years, since 2017, which didn't start here. So it's literally a place. BRB, Writers at Work. They have, every single week, they have 5 to 10 writers that do 10-minute slots of new writing, or it's a revival. In the 1950s, it was one of the first places where John Osborne's plays. Oh, that's good. Dean has asked, do I pronounce my name Gerard or Gerard? Well, that's up to you. I was born in South London. My parents are from Cork and Cavan. They say Gerard. But I would say, if you say Gerard or Gerard, it's absolutely fine. But my mum and dad, they say Gerard. But I like Gerard. And I also like the Italian, Gerardo, because it makes me sound really cool. So one of the first amazing plays here in the 1950s was John Osborne's Look Back in Anger. One of the first plays that any actor has to read, really. And then a few years later, The Entertainer, another John Osborne play. Archie Rice, the lead character played by Laurence Olivier. And in the 1960s, taken over by the English Shakespeare Company, and then they got involved in censorship issues. Julia F. has asked, is the Mousetrap still playing? It's an interesting question, because you know that neon there? It looks a little bit like the St. Martin's Theatre, where the Mousetrap is still on. The Mousetrap is running in the West End. So we're about half a mile from the main West End at the moment. And the Mousetrap is in its 70th year. And you wouldn't believe it, 70 years of Dame Agatha Christie's The Mousetrap running in the West End. The same cast. They haven't changed since. Okay, I'm just waiting for the laughter. I thank you all. I thank you all. I thank you all. Now, I need to scroll down. Alison, have I ever had the privilege of seeing Dame Judy live in anything? I saw her in A Little Night Music a few years ago. The great Stephen Sondheim, the late great Stephen Sondheim. I saw Judi Dench and Catherine Zeta-Jones in that. Judi Dench is the greatest, really. Now, in 1968, theatres abolished censorship. These places, before that, they were running as theatre members' clubs. And if you've been around St. Martin's Lane with myself, or any other guide, places like the Arts Theatre, the Hampstead Theatre, in the 1960s, the Lord Chamberlain was still censoring plays. And so a lot of writers were either setting plays in other countries or other time periods. If they were talking about something about sexuality, like Terence Rattigan or Oscar Wilde even, they would have to turn them into fairy tales or something that didn't actively say we're promoting or talking about these things. And then in 1968, everything changed. And one of the first shows in the West End to change everything was Hair the Musical. But these buildings, they used to have members clubs. So you would buy a ticket for a play, and the ticket got you membership to a theatre club for that night. And that's how they got around the rules. I've auditioned quite a bit here. It's one of my favourite theatres. Conor McPherson's The Weir. If you haven't read many plays, if you ever see a production of The Weir, an amateur production, even a TV version, anything of it, anywhere in the world, see it. It's one of the greatest plays ever written. 1973, the Rocky Horror Picture Show was first performed here. Oh yeah, I said auditions, I mean meetings. And this has been a meeting with Heygo Voyagers. Yeah, The Weir's amazing. It's a collection of ghost stories, all set in a pub around the Galway area, the west of Ireland. Let me try and bring you back. Guys, I went on too long. Gone on over an hour. You know, I was worried. At the beginning, I thought, I'm not going to get a signal. It's going to be too dark. I won't have enough information, and, well, it'll just all go horribly wrong. Every single new tour and every single guide feels like this. They always get a bit of nerves, and I had them especially tonight, because not many of us get to do Knightsbridge and Sloane Square, or Knightsbridge in particular, but we got to wander around. I'm sorry I missed some of the questions on the chat. I do apologise for that. I'm trying to avoid traffic and everything. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your comments, all the questions, all my corrections. There are always a few of those. Thank you for any financial contributions, or as I call them, tips, or as some guides call them, salary. You're so lovely. And it's so nice that you all hung out with me. And I do apologise that we've gone over an hour again. It's been a good day of tours. I've watched a couple today. Some great London guides. Of course, there are new London guides as well. And I'm a big supporter of that. We're all doing different things. And it's great to see what they're up to. They've all got great voices and great personalities. And Hilary has said, thanks, Jared. This has been great. You are so informative. That is on the tombstone, right there. Jared Gilroy, he was a great guide. He didn't sell oranges, so he didn't get discovered as much as Nell Gwyn. Sorry, I still can't let it go. Yeah, too early for the tombstone. Yeah, you're right. I mean, my goodness. Mid-20s, I've got years to go. Thank you, Sue. I think I'm doing something tomorrow. I know I am. I am around the West End tomorrow. I'm really trying to hold this gimbal as far out as I can, because my head is enormous. From Al Fayed to John Osborne. Yeah, Manu, I tried to cover. There's so many good things. From Al Fayed to John Osborne, I tried to cover things. On my tombstone, it should be, don't pray, just tip. You know, that's basically it. Yeah, Shaftesbury Avenue. Tish, you're a wonder. Tish has to remind. She's my she's my secretary at the moment. I'm not giving you commission, Tish, but I just want you to know I do appreciate it. We're approaching the King's Road. I remember a couple of months ago. Actually, it was longer than that. Tish will remember. Do you remember we did a little walk in Piccadilly, Tish? And somebody said, and it might have been Robin, just keep going. And we did. And I tried to remember everything I could about the area. And I think we ended up near maybe Tiffany's or something like that. Yeah, do you remember that? We just kept walking. We ended up by a horse statue, which I then researched after that. But Piccadilly is such a beautiful area. I like the lights. It's very different to Cork, where I was last week. But we're in one of the brightest places in London. And this square was completely empty pre-pandemic. And now they've opened a place called Summer in the Square. So every summer they have bars here. Oh, thank you. Prince Albert Bridge area soon would be fab. I've scheduled that, Ellie. I've scheduled my Albert Bridge tour. And I want to do it at this time of night. Now, Tish was saying about these blue tours. And the Albert Bridge is like Harrods, the way it's lit up at night. And we're definitely going to go there. And I've scheduled one where I think it starts about 8 o'clock at night. And it's going to end up being really beautiful when the lights go down. Thank you very much from me. That's the direction I'm going home. I have a bike in that direction. And I'm going to cycle 9 miles home. Susan has asked any chance of touring Harrods. They don't allow things like that, Susan. Maybe. It might have to be. See, I'm not as brave as some of the guides going into museums and shops. Yeah, it's a bit of an unknown quantity, especially a big department store. But I suppose I could film as much as I could and then do a little, and take photos and do a little tour from home, maybe a little 20, 25-minute thing, the history of it. Hide the gimbal in the elephant. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's nice to be out on the streets or at home. I get worried when you go in somewhere that not 100% sure that you've got the run of the place. Do you know what I mean? Thank you so much. Look, guys, it's an hour and 10 minutes. I've gone 25 minutes over. I'm blaming you. I still love you. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much. Lots of love. Bye-bye.